What's up, guys? I'm here with Dragos, a client that I've been working for at least 1 year. We have been working, I think, for a longer period of time than that, quite a bit. And we have been going through a big journey of transformation from his side. And I want to share with you today some of the progress that he has been doing, that he has done, that he is accomplishing still at the moment. And I will allow him introduce himself, Dragos.
Hey guys, good to be here. Yeah, as Thiago said, we've been working together for, yeah, it's going to be 2 years in like 4 months, I think. For me, I'm an entrepreneur, an online entrepreneur. For me, the biggest challenges have always been eating and mostly eating around my schedule because I travel a lot. I like to have a routine, but that's not always possible. So, between running a business, running multiple businesses, traveling a lot, and having the lifestyle that I want to have, it was really important for me to get support in that area. And that's where Thiago helped me a lot.
Yeah. I remember one of the things that when we had our first calls, it was you find it very difficult to eat healthy because you were saying, "Hey, Tiago, like I'm always traveling. You don't understand. It's so difficult to eat healthy in the airports, and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Come on, Dragos. Wait a second. You will see that it's not exactly like that. It's just we need to go through a mental shift. And in your case, I have shared it, I think, somewhere in the Portuguese video that I have done, that you have been, overweight quite for a few years on adolescent years or an adolescent. I don't know how to pronounce that, but when you were a teenager, and yeah, that creates a big barrier for us to lose weight and maintain it off because we get so like our habits are so rooted in us that it's difficult for us to actually understand why we can't lose weight and keep it off. So why, for example, what were some of the habits that you changed in this past year or in these past 2 years? How are you acting differently from before, like, compared to now?
Man, it's completely different. Like you have to understand when when you're like I was, like I never received any kind of education on what to eat. I've always been on diets. I've been on every diet you could possibly imagine. I've done juicing for like 3 weeks where I only drank juices. I've done I tried intermittent fasting. I tried keto. I've tried the Dukan diet. I've tried fuck knows. I don't know, man. I tried so much stuff throughout my. I think I've been preoccupied with my weight since I was like 12, 10, 12, 11 years old. I've always wanted to lose weight, and every time, you'd go to a nutritionist, and they would prescribe this and this, and sometimes it works. The weirdest part is that I've always been super active. I'm not one of those people that has been fat because they don't like to do sports. I've been crazy about sports my whole life. Like I would play football at middle school with every opportunity. In high school I was playing like basketball at a club. Imagine I was training 5 times a week, Monday to Friday, every evening, plus sports classes at the school. So sometimes twice a day, plus a game on Sundays. So literally every day, like at least 2 hours of basketball. And I would never lose weight. And like you think to yourself, and like, how is that even possible? And then your parents tell you, I've always had this told to me, like, yeah, because I really have thick bones. Like if you look at my calves, they're huge. Like they're not like normal people. They have their calves are like this. Mine are like they go like this. And my even now after losing all this weight, my quads, my legs, they're really thick. Like they are still really thick. So my conformation is like that naturally. But I've always had people tell me like, you're never gonna be slim. It's just how your conformation is. It's how your parents is. It's genetics. You're never going to be slim. And my parents kept telling me this and telling me, and I always rejected it. But not knowing a way, a predictable way in which I can reverse it, and not knowing what to eat, it's just you feel like you're never going to be able to do it. And then I've always loved to eat sweets, and I've been given sweets by my parents my whole life. So I don't want to quit on sweets. And it's not like I've been fat. I mean, yeah, I was fat. Like by now, I would say about myself that I was fat. But like even any average person that would look at me, they would say, "Oh, come on, man, you're not fat." Because I've always, been going to the gym. As I said, my body conformation is a bit bigger, so it's not like I was that fat. But like my ass was like super huge, my legs as well. Um, but it kind of like all stuck together. I wasn't like one of those people that have like thin legs and like a big belly. With me, everything was kind of bigger, so it kind of looks a bit different. And I've had periods when I lost a lot of weight. Like, so imagine I'm 175 meters tall, and I was 75 kilos. Last time I remember I was 75 kilos was in the ninth grade when I was 14 years old. But like, imagine that was like pure fat. Like I never went to the gym and all that, and I was probably shorter a bit as well. And that's when I started playing basketball. And then I remember in at university, so when I was 18 years old, my weight was about in the good times, it was like 85 kilos, 86. And it went, I was at 95 at some point, like 95 kilos. And it was like, I remember some periods of time where 88, 89, 90 was like the normal for me. And like, yeah, when it was over 90, I was like, okay, that's a bit too much. But 88, I was kind of feeling comfortable with it because I kind of accepted that narrative, right? And I remember after, for example, after I did the Dukan diet and I trained athletics, like imagine I was going to university and when I was coming back to Romania during summer, I would train athletics like with some like national coaches here that I've had like international like gold medalists in athletics and national gold medalists. And I was training like these were really intense workouts. And I managed to trim down from 85, 86 or like 90 to 82. And those were the lows that I had during those periods. But again, like I probably like if I knew what to eat, because that was probably always the problem with me, I could have gotten to much lower and actually maintained it. But and the main problem was anytime I would lose weight, I would lose because I would follow Tim Ferriss like another diet. I would follow Tim Ferriss's low carb diet, and in Tim Ferriss's low carb diet, like I would eat super healthy. Like I kind of had an idea of what's healthy and what's not. Like I would cook for myself, go to work. I was in a 9 to 5 job back then, and I would take my cooked food to work. I would eat, like chicken with broccoli and stuff like that. And then at the weekends, I would have my cheat day. And on my cheat day, I remember I would have this like jug of Ben and Jerry's. And the first thing that I would do on Saturday morning is I would open the jug of Ben and Jerry because it was my cheat day. I could eat however much I wanted to and just eat like half a jug of Ben and Jerry's just like that or eat Nutella. Oh my God. Now I actually remember it now. So, and the problem was the biggest problem was I always had to, it always felt like I was sacrificing the pleasure of eating for losing weight. And anytime I would eat something sweet, I would feel super guilty. And I would get a lot of times to the point where I would just say fuck it, and just eat a ton of sweets and stuff like fuck it. And because you don't know the impact of the food that you're consuming, there's no way for you to know how much is acceptable or to have a routine and a responsibility for that. And then another thing that really screwed me over was stuff like I would eat. I think, and this is crazy. During middle school, I think I was eating like omelets and stuff during the morning with like ham and stuff like that, which is not that bad, right? Or like boiled eggs sometimes with ham, which is okay. Back then, I was still eating meat, but I think at some point the whole like fitness cereals, the brand Fitness for cereals, there was this whole craze about it, and my grandma was buying them for me because it's like fitness cereals, so they make you fit. So I was eating cereals for breakfast for like maybe like 6 years, cereals with milk, and maybe like, and I don't eat milk now, but maybe like the milk was like the best thing that I was eating during that breakfast. I had no idea that was like sugar. And at university, I remember like lots of times I was eating cereal for breakfast, like the fucking, I don't know, chunky whatever cookies and stuff like that, and like eating like 2 3 bowls. And now I realized that was like pure sugar, right? And a lot of it. And I think, and this is funny, right? One of my girlfriends back then, she was eating porridge for breakfast. So I started eating porridge with milk and microwaving it, and I was adding dark chocolate. And I remember that was like my breakfast for like maybe 2 years. Um, and that's like much better, but it's still not that good. So like all these little habits, all the foods that I was consuming, they really contributed to everything, and I basically had no idea of predictability whatsoever in what I was eating. And yeah, then I started working with you, and it was so hard at the beginning, so hard to change. And but you know, it's like your method is so good because you never imposed stuff on me. You never said you should eat this and that. But by counting my macros and understanding how everything contributes and actually observing how everything affects me, it just happens naturally. Like I tell this to everyone, when you're aware of what you're eating and how different foods impact you, and you see how it impacts your weight, you get to a point where I never thought I would be able to eat healthy on a consistent basis. But now it's like when I'm aware, there's no way I could go back to how I was before. Like it's literally impossible for me to go back to where I was before. There's no turning back because even though in the first year you're like, oh, I should lie to myself. Oh, maybe I can lie to myself. Oh, maybe I can overestimate. Oh, maybe I can get away with this and that. But at some point, like it just becomes so ingrained that you're like, nah, there's no way. Like it's not gonna benefit me to lie to myself and all that. I can still eat whatever I want without like squeezing it in within the calories, without doing that. So that's kind of like the shift that has happened to me, and like I'm happy to go into like more, even more specific details of my nutrition and how things have changed because I remember quite well, and I think you remember as well, like the kind of stuff that I was eating even like 1 year ago, and the kind of stuff that I do now, and the shifts that I've gone through. So yeah, that's a bit long-winded, but it's kind of a short history of the mental transformations that I've gone through.
Absolutely. So, guys, just to summarize what Dragos said and to give you some numbers, when we start work, he was around 85, and now he weighs 75.5, something like that, in today. And this is in half a year, not half a year and a half of work, which for most people could seem or can seem that it's not a long progress. But if you listen to what he has said until now, basically he's saying that he tried low carb, high fat, low fat. He tried all kinds of diets, and now he's working with me. And I did not give him any diet. I did not impose him things. I just shared systems with him. We track things. We run the numbers. He can lie to me. I know when he's lying to me, and he knows when he's lying. But I know better than him in a way that okay, I know what is happening here. And at the beginning, it was not easy, as he's saying, because he was not being completely honest with himself. With
Yeah.
me, maybe it could even be because he could think that he was being honest, but I knew that there was more to that. So we did a long progress in that. Another thing I stopped to do it was to try all these crazy things because we humans tend, of course, to always look for quick and easy ways to improve things, and sometimes we fall into traps, into get into like a type of fad thing because it looks that it will improve our life a lot. But as he said, like he just changed a few things. Now he's sleeping more, which is something that everyone knows. Like sleeping more helps us, contributes us to feel better. And now he doesn't have crashes on of energy during the day. But this also a result is lifting weights and losing weight. So his blood sugar is also more controlled. But again, it's a combination of factors, and this all contributes to this. So Dragos, the question for you, it would be like, what would be like the top three changes, like we can say mindset changes that you had before working with me and nowadays? Like,
Top three. Hmm. I mean, there's a lot of them. I can just spit them out really fast. One of them is measuring yourself constantly. It's the first time that I measure my weight daily, and not taking into account like spikes of weight because they can, we do like an average per week, and that helps a lot because I know exactly that's one of the main things that I tell people. I know exactly how my body will react, and you know this. Like we talk, and we're like, I tell you like, today I ate a bit much. I know it's gonna spike tomorrow, and the weight spikes. Or then I tell you, okay, today I rested and I stayed under the calories. I'm expecting the weight to go down by like half a kilo, and then it does exactly that. Like I know exactly how my body reacts in terms of weight, and because I continue putting muscle on, I'm happy even staying at the same weight because I can see the changes in my body. Um, second, the second thing is like I just I just look so much better. Like I started loving the way I look, and it's just contagious. Like it cannot stop. Once you get into that loop, you're like, it almost seems surreal that you could look like that because I never actually believed that I can look like that. And it happened. The other thing is, I would say the importance of one thing that I realized is the importance of this is actually like a really deep one. It's not it's not willpower. Like it's not it. There is some willpower involved, obviously, because you can always control yourself and control your decisions. But I know now, like the more you make mistakes in certain types of foods that you eat, the less you're going to repeat those mistakes. So what I mean by that is, I know what types of food will make me want to eat more. I know that if I eat sugary stuff in the first part of the day, I'm gonna crave more food immediately after. So everything that I'm saying here, I've made the same mistakes over and over again, and at some point I'm like, okay, enough with this. I can clearly see this affects this factor. So, for example, eating sugar in the morning affects me for my lunch and for my dinner. So I'm gonna stop doing that. And then once you implement that positive feedback loop and you actually reward yourself after, there's no way you do it again. So like one example that I would say is I continued refining my breakfast, and now I just eat a very actually a very tasty breakfast. I eat porridge, like oats that I cook with protein, and I cook it in water, and then I also add cocoa. I add stevia, and I add like rum essence and vanilla essence, and it's like a dessert, but in actuality, it has very little sugar, and the combination of oats with protein fills me up, so I don't really feel hungry for like 4 or 5 hours after. So I don't feel the need to eat something sweet, and I can keep my dessert for either lunch or dinner. That's my rule. If I have dessert after lunch, then I have a really light dinner. If I have like a very small dessert or like a treat after lunch, then I can go for like a huge dessert for dinner. So that's another thing that I do. The other thing that I would say is really cool is that I thought, you have the whole, there's a lot of myths that you bust, and I always thought, oh, you shouldn't eat carbs in the evening. Whereas now I'm like, I can eat whatever I want whenever I want as long as I stay within the calories. Obviously, if I eat like more carbs in the evening, it might affect my weight the second day, but in the long term, that doesn't really matter at all. So I actually find it easier to be super disciplined throughout the day. So I'm kind of sacrificing throughout the day. But then like in the evening, I can have like like 2 scoops of ice cream or like a piece
Guilty.
of cake. Yeah, and I do it all the time, man. Like I eat desserts daily. Another big thing is I can eat desserts daily. Like I literally eat desserts daily, which and without regrets, that's the biggest thing. Like before I was like, "Oh my God, I'm eating this or that." And now I'm like, "Holy shit, like I can eat whatever I want whenever I want it as long as like, count the calories." So, like yesterday I had my weight dropped from yesterday till today, and I had like this big slice of cake. I can actually show it to you because I haven't had one in the fridge. And it's like this like chocolate cake, which is amazing. The other big thing is fats versus sugar. I Because I read stuff about the dangers of sugar, and like 2 years ago I was completely against sugar. Like I was eating vegan desserts and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my God, this sugar is so bad and all that stuff. And I did like a complete 180 where actually not a 180, maybe like a 90 degrees shift where like I approach it much more balanced, where I understand that yes, sugar is bad because it triggers you, like it triggers your hormones to eat more because it leaves that taste in your mouth, and you feel like eating more and it's not as filling. But then neither is fat, and fat actually has more calories than sugar. So the funny thing is now when I look at a dessert, I'm actually, if I have a dessert that's more sugary than fat, I actually
Yeah.
prefer that because I know it has less calories. So this cake, for example, hold on, let me grab it. Hold on, I'll show it to you. So
Awesome.
this is like the most amazing cake. Like I don't know if you can see
Oh,
it. It's like
that's it.
it's very dark, but
Yeah.
it's like this cake, and it's very it's the chocolate is not, I don't know how to describe it. It's not that dense, and
Mm,
it's, you can feel it's not fat. Like the cake itself is not that fat. It's more like sugary, right? So I don't know exactly how many calories it has, but it definitely has less than a raw, like a vegan cake, which is very dense. Like usually the ingredients are like, even though it's like it seems like a small piece of cake, you can feel like it's super dense. And that one has much more, like probably like 1 to 200 calories more than this slice of cake.
yeah,
So that difference between what is perceived as healthy and not healthy, as you taught me, it's always relative. Like, what does healthy mean? From what standpoint? Sure, probably the ingredients, like the micronutrients in that vegan cake, are better for me than whatever these guys use in this cake. But calorically, if I want to take into account weight loss, this cake is much better for me than that one.
yeah,
So that was like a big, like, wow difference for me. And I'm always optimizing now for foods that, the other thing is, when you count your macros, I've noticed that if I eat more fat in the first part of the day, I don't know how to describe it. Like sometimes you will feel, and I was making this mistake a lot at the beginning. You would feel like, 100 calories, 150 calories now, and all that. I'll eat this. It's fattier in the first part of the day. But it always adds up. It always adds up. And the thing that's most annoying is I got so many times the situation where I would go to a restaurant and I'm like, let me look through this. And I'm like, I would really have this pasta, but then I only have like 500 calories left, and I'm like, fuck, if I didn't have that thing that was like 250 calories, I could have actually justified having this pasta. But now, like, I have some room, but not quite enough, so I'm gonna have to settle for something else. And
yeah,
that thing has been so annoying that now I don't really do that anymore. Like, I don't eat sweets in the first part of the. I do every now and then, but I make sure that I leave enough room to treat myself later in the day. Um, so that's a big thing. And just balancing, especially now after I've dropped a lot of weight and you've been a bit more, and that I lift weights, you've been a bit more, like you've let me eat a bit more on lifting days. That's made a big difference because now I can actually treat myself 3 times per week. Like I eat, can eat pizza, I can eat like, I love American pancakes. I can eat a ton of stuff that before I just didn't know if I could eat or not. So that's been a big thing for me as well.
okay. And about the workouts, compared also to what you were doing before and what you are doing now, if you still remember some of the difference, because this was a while ago, but what are you doing differently now that you enjoy? And if you want to share also, if there is something that you don't enjoy, you can also say why. But what are basically the main difference that you see that my workouts have compared to maybe what you were doing before? Or if you want to describe mistakes or improvements that you did, just feel free to share.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. So just so you understand, for me, I think what's really important is everyone has different types of sports that they like to do. Everyone is different. And for me, I know that I like high intensity workouts. So I play basketball. It's my favorite sport. That's really high intensity. And that's kind of like the only organized sport that I play. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I used to have, and I try to tell people this all the time, is that I thought in order to burn fat, I need to do as much cardio as possible, which is not, it's not something that's not true. It's obviously true. Like you do cardio, you will burn more calories, but on a long term basis, for it to be sustainable, is it's much more important to build muscle. Actually, this is. Can I just say this before I go to training? The
Yeah.
biggest, biggest thing, like the thing with which you convinced me at the beginning, which was like, holy shit, this is like a big motivator for me. And then I'll come back to training. I like to eat, right? And when you explain to me how the metabolic rate works and how if I put muscle on, every every effort that I make will have a much bigger impact than before in terms of the calories that I burn. So let's say if I have more muscle mass, instead of burning let's say instead of burning 500 calories in a 1 hour basketball session, I'll burn 650 at some point. I don't know, just giving an example. um, that to me was like, wow, okay, so I need to build muscle, because if I build muscle, not only will I be more explosive and perform better on the basketball court, but actually I'll be able to eat more because my body will consume more. So that for me was like, okay, I need to put muscle on and do all this stuff, because once I do that, I can eat more, and that's like a big reward for me. So it's like one of the biggest and most important things that I understood. So now back to training, obviously then that means I need to build muscle. And building muscle is not like going lifting weights. I've done it, over the past 5, 6 years, on and off, like literally on and off. And it was always like, what should I do today? I should do this and that. It was never structured. And well, I've always really enjoyed when I start doing weights, because you obviously you tone up and all that. I never managed to keep it as a routine and actually track my progress and all that. Now, 2 years ago, before I started working with you, I went on like a pretty serious motivated run where I wanted to lose weight. And what I was doing is I was doing a shit ton of cardio and high intensity interval training. Like imagine I was playing basketball maybe once, twice a week. Yeah, something like that. And I was going to like 4 or 5 classes. Like literally almost 6 days a week, I was doing cardio or high intensity interval training. So I was going to one or two cycling classes at the gym, like the spinning classes. And I was doing, if people know the grit workouts, grit strength and grit cardio, which are these workouts done by Les Mills, and they're very intense. And my body would be like aching, like it was very intense, but I loved it. Like I loved the type of effort, and I was like, I'm burning calories, so I should be losing weight. And actually I wasn't losing that much weight. And now, like 1.5 years after, I'm doing cardio like twice a week, which is two basketball sessions, maybe three times, but I really cannot, because I'm doing the strength. So it's for the first time in the past 3 months, I've been doing three strength sessions per week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I think I've only skipped one or two, and that was when I was traveling. But I've still done like two sessions during those weeks. And I play basketball Sundays and Mondays. And Wednesdays and Fridays, I usually rest because my body is so tired that I've had situations where I go to basketball and like nothing works. Like I can't hit a shot or anything because my legs feel really tired, my body feels really tired. So I'm really emphasizing rest in between the sessions. So that's one big difference, because and I'm losing weight, and I never thought that would be possible with so little cardio. Um, in terms of the training itself, we're focusing much more on. So I'm doing before I would do, let's say, 3 sessions a week, and I would isolate it. So I'll do like chest and biceps, or whatever people do. Whereas right now I'm doing three full body workouts per week, because as you said, if I only work out 3 times instead of 4 times per week, it's good to hit all the big muscle groups, and just kind of have complementary full body workouts throughout the week. So that's a big difference. Then another big difference was you pushed me to do lower reps, higher weights. Even though we changed that a bit lately because of I had some back issues, muscular, nothing too complicated. Um, but yeah, basically I'm training for explosiveness, and that really works. It probably is not suited for everyone, but that really works for me because I want to train my explosiveness for basketball. Um, and yeah, those are the main issues. Predictability is a really big one. I before I would I would just go like, what do I feel like doing, and I'd jump from machine to machine. Whereas now I have like set exercises that I do, and using the strong app that you recommended, I have everything, like all the reps and all the exercises in that app, and we actually track them in a spreadsheet from week to week, and we see my improvements in terms of strength. So, this week I've managed to lift this amount of weight with this many reps. 2 weeks later, I improved. So for me, right now the mindset is, if I keep even if I keep the same weight and I don't drop the weight too much, if I start lifting more and more, that means I've put on more muscle mass. So that means I've actually burned fat because I have more muscle mass at the same weight than I did before. And the end result of all this, which is crazy, is for the first time in my life, I'm actually excited for my weightlifting sessions because we really managed to work out a way in which I reward myself after these strength sessions. And because I do that, it creates this positive reinforcement. And I'm always looking forward to something that, like weightlifting is necessary. And I've heard a lot of successful people say, I don't like lifting weights necessarily, but it's you need to do it because it's correlated, in so many studies with prolonged health. And to be honest, like once you get probably once you get to 40, 50 years old, high intensity training becomes more and more difficult to maintain, and whereas you can still maintain good strength sessions. And yeah, I'm in the same, like I never thought I would get here, but I'm in the same situation now where I love training strength because I'm very I'm a person that likes to be in groups. I like to play basketball because I'm with other people. We play as part of a team. And I thought I could only do strength training if I worked with a personal trainer, which I did, for like the first year that we worked together. And now I'm training by myself because I managed to um, get over that part, by identifying what kind of music I like to play when I do strength training. But the biggest thing is the reward that I have because I can eat more calories during strength days. I'm like, okay, and I found the perfect time to change strength. Before I was either going during the morning or during the evening, and the morning wasn't working for me because I had to eat, like I felt like I had to eat something before, and obviously after you do a strength training, you have to eat something after. So it's just like a way to accumulate a lot of calories. Whereas now I found the perfect timing for my training, which is right about this time. So noon, I go to the gym. I also get a bit hungry, but I push through it. And then when I come back at like 3 p.m., I've only had breakfast during the day, and I can have like a bigger, like a high protein lunch is what I usually have after strength training. And then I have like 1,000 something calories left for like a light dinner and like a huge portion of dessert if I want to have that. So that works for me really well, and that reward that I get from eating more food during strength days really reinforced that for me. And then obviously, like man, I've been going to the gym in the past few months, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm more cut, and I see all the different muscles, and it's just like, as I said, like once you start doing it, there's no way you're gonna quit it because the results are there, and obviously you love looking at yourself when you look like that.
All right. So, Dragos, it's an honor. It has been an honor to work with you. You shared here a lot of gold nuggets, like things that you do for yourself that can be helpful for other people. You share some of the things that we do in our programming. So, yeah, I just want to leave it like this. I don't want to say anything else. Thank you for your time, for sharing your story with us, to the people here who will watch it. And yeah, it has been a pleasure to working with you, to seeing you progress all this way. And we still have some work to do, but the most difficult part, you have achieved it already, which starts mentally, like the mental shift, and
Yeah,
you understand what you have to do. And then, okay, now I know that I have to do these things. Now it's just, let's fucking do it. Where
yeah,
before it's probably the opposite. Like you know that you have to do it, but you are not convinced that you will benefit a lot by doing it. It's just the resistance, and you cut the resistance now. It's not always like we don't feel like always going to the gym and all that, but as you shared here, it's a lot more exciting to know that you will progress, that you are moving in this direction, that you are having all these improvements. Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. And I'll just say, like, for whoever is still listening after all the talk, Tiago, like, literally changed my life. Like, and I'm not exaggerating. This has been the biggest pain point that I've had my whole life, not knowing how to lose weight. And like as you said, the mental shift that has happened is just insane. Like this kind of stuff is the education that I've always wanted to get on how to eat and how to train, and I never got it. And now once we've pushed through and all these new learnings have actually become habits, I like for the first time in my life, I feel confident to say like I'm never going to be fat again. I'm always going to be in top shape because knowing what I know now and seeing how it works and knowing my body, there's just no way that I can go back. Like no way that I can go back to how I was. So that's how transformative this has been. Like literally words cannot describe it. And like my girlfriend is super happy as well.
I bet he is. All right, Dragos. Thank you very much for your time, and we will keep working.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.